Do I have a new project for you, a big old Sprinter van. And I'm not even going to drag you back to the start. We're going straight to the juicy part, because I spent the last week cutting 3 big holes in the roof. 1, 2, 3, so that I can weld in glass from a Land Rover. This is van life soup classic motoring style. Only trouble is, next part of the job I really hate. So in the meantime, why don't you have an intro sequence and maybe a little bit of camper van backstory? Yeah, I'll be right back. Oh, maybe, what if I flick the mic? Like that? You didn't like the whole scratchy fork routine. Well, maybe this does it for you. Alright, let's get this out of the way. Terms and conditions style. My van is a W903. That's the factory designation for a first generation Mercedes Sprinter. Ooh, I didn't say that very well. It's a 2002 model long wheelbase 2.1 litre turbo 4-cylinder with a manual box. 313 CDI is the model for public consumption. That stands for 3 ton gross vehicle weight with 130 horsepower. With 130 horsepower. Try saying that as an Irishman. And this is it. As I first saw it, sitting outside a pal's house, having failed a roadworthiness test. With only 75,000 on the clock, it's got plenty of mechanical life left. Major pro. But the cons are... The cons are spiders. Only joking. You can see what the cons are. Spiders. Anyway, this van has been slowly turning to shit in the background for the last few years while I worked on a Lotus, a Range Rover and a Mercedes. Find those videos and hit subscribe right now with whistles on. Those other projects were meat and veg restoration work, and my soul has yearned to create something new. So let's talk adding Land Rover roof glass, otherwise known as alpine glass, to a camper conversion. See, one day I saw it. The 2 vehicles side by side and the roof lines being almost identical. Next thing I knew, a pal had provided a pair of fresh cut alpine windows from a Discovery. Thanks, Will. And it was enough to confirm the plan is good. And so we take to the skies in search of some more alpine windows. And what's this? The graveyard of Land Rover Discovery 2s. An amiable guy with a consaw chopped out 4 more of these alpine windows for me while I took 90s rock and roll guitar solo-esque aerial footage of him doing it. And we're good to go. Except that part of the job I don't like doing is grinding back welds. It's hard work, it's hot work, and I tend to set myself on fire. If you look at the welds on the top of the van, those were done off camera. I had my time, I could do them slowly, and they're nice and even for it. They will be easy to grind back because they're consistent. Whereas these ones on the front, while I was up a ladder, I had the full weight of the torch swinging my hand every time I tried to weld. Plus, every time I did weld, I had to duck out a shot for the stop motion. So it wasn't easy, and as a consequence, they're uneven. They're going to be difficult to grind back because every little bit of them will require concentration. I'm not looking forward to it, but while you're watching this job from the start, I'm going to go at it, and hopefully by the time you get to the end, I'll have caught up with you. This all goes back to days when hair was short and rust was real. You see, the Sprinter has 3 main roof sections, each overlapping the next, creating joints that are prone to leaking and eventually rusting away. I'd show you, but, well, look at it. With water leaking into the floor and threatening to rust that out too, the first thing to do was nip the worst of the leaks in the mud. This first attempt, yeah, I said first attempt, did not go well. The body of a Sprinter is like a biscuit tin, and with nothing to support it, the roof warped steeper than that BMX kicker ramp you built when you were 13. So out that repair came, and I went at it with some pieces of angle iron welded to the inside of the roof to stiffen it and help it stay in true to itself. This repair, this one to the side of the roof, this is going to be a problem later. Looking back, it's obvious to me where I've cut a corner that'll haunt me, but it was midwinter and freezing work. Anyway, skipping ahead 6 months, it's time to start cutting holes and see what's what with this alpine glass. It looks good, doesn't it? Well, this is the nice part of the join. It gets worse as we look up past the shoulder of the roof curve. I said the Land Rover roof was as close as I could see to the shape of the Sprinter's roof, but it's not exact, and as I was starting to realise, the difference was on more than one axis. Anyway, as the roof line of the Sprinter meets the new metal of the glass frame, I had forced a slight but distinct depression in the metal, and it's deepest where the two panels meet. So to relieve that back out of the bodywork, I cut a wedge out to take the bulk of the problem area away so that I could let in a gentle transition between the old and the new. So everything's tacked in, except for the seam along the top. And because of a sharp step up that transitions the flat of the roof to the shoulder of the roof side. Well, in terms of getting a weld in there without messing up the glass completely, it's close. Live action car guy! Anyway, I've come up with a plan to protect the glass. 2 days it took me to put that piece of glass in the roof of the Sprinter. 2 whole days just to get it right. And I've got to do 5 more of these. And the weather is really nipping at my heels because summer's over. It's dropping in temperature, rain is threatening every other couple of minutes. And I'm in a real push to get this done because if I don't spray it soon, I won't be able to spray it out here. Am I shouting? I can't really hear you, because of these. Yeah, you're probably wondering about these reinforcing ribs. Ideally, they wouldn't be interrupting the glass, but I chose to modify them and leave them in place initially while I got to grips with the job. But this one, the one I'm working on here, this is the big one. It's bigger than all the rest. It's bigger than anyone I ever met. Yeah. Because it's supporting the pillar of the sliding door, so I'm leaving it as is. It'd be quite a big job to cut it out, and then the van might go a bit floppy in the middle, but the rib that cuts across the forward alpine window may well end up chopped out. We'll have to wait and see. The rear alpine window was supposed to be the easy one, mainly because it's the only one where the roof ribs were far enough apart that the window would fit in between 2 of them for a clear view. Nothing good to see here. The thing that I hadn't considered was getting the window and frame far enough forward of the rear of the van that a smooth transition between old metal and new would be achievable. On top of that, the roof of the van is a totally different shape down the back than it is where the forward alpine windows are. There's a lot more shaping needed at either end of this window frame to make it good. So things quickly went from little or no modification needed to cutting large sections out of one of the roof ribs and having to reinforce it with some tin plate. Woohoo! Real life car stuff. I had the same sort of van body to window frame transition problem at the back window as I'd had on the front one. And I went through a thorough interview process with a number of sheet metal transplant candidates before I realised I didn't need a new piece of metal to let in. I could just relieve the stress of the existing metal and reposition it in situ to achieve the right curve in the bodywork. I've had some time to grieve over my own stupidity and lack of foresight, so we'll deal with how I sucker punch myself in a little bit. But in the meantime, you may have noticed that the front of the van was looking a little stripped and maybe a little refreshed. I'll be bringing you that whole story in another episode. But what's been a real nosebleed is watching a lot of hard work getting roughed up by all the grinder swarf I've created while putting the glass in the roof. It's by no means the end of the world, but there's a lesson in job scheduling in here somewhere. I'm talking the order in which you tackle a jobs list on a project. The grinding finished one evening, too late to think about painting the bare metal. It was going to have to stay bare overnight, and ordinarily that would have been fine. Except for the fog. Not so bad. The wire wheel will burnish this back to shine in no time. Something you can really see here though is the taper towards the front of the alpine glass. It's something it took me a long time to notice. It's far less obvious to the naked eye. And this is what I meant by the fit being off on more than one axis. We'll call the resulting undulation in the overall line of the roof a feature to anyone who asks. I'm doing a really messy job of mixing filler. There is sweat beading down my face. This has been very difficult. There are supposed to be thundery showers today, but seeing as the sun has shown up and the van is very warm, instead of just trying to get a layer of epoxy onto it, epoxy primer that is, I'm going to try and fill it, get a skim on, sand it back, and then get a layer of epoxy primer onto it. Wish me luck. Here's where I administer ye old sucker punch. I was so focused on beating the weather that it never occurred to me that I should have been beating the panels long before even thinking of filler and paint. The result? Well, disappointment, but let's finish the job for now and live to rope-a-dope another day. Before I spray this, it's no way well enough prepped. Not a chance. I know that. It's not going to look good, but I just have to seal it now. I was gifted with heat when it was supposed to be thunder and lightning all day, so I managed to get a skim of filler into it, which has made it a hell of a lot better, but I bet it's going to look terrible when I'm done. I just need it sealed, so here it goes. Guess what happened next? The rain in Spain fell mainly on my custom camper panes. No real harm done. The epoxy got a warm evening and most of an overnight to go touch dry before the deluge started. My spray technique still has a long way to go, but with epoxy primer at least, I'm learning that you can lay down quite a bit before getting runs. Anyway, you know how a car looks better with rain beating off it. I'm leaving you with these shots and claiming a win, mostly. I'll know better on a few scores when I come to do the glass on the other side. Something else I wanted to mention. I've no idea how other people seem to be able to do messy work without getting covered in crap and destroying clothes. I like to get deeply stuck into whatever I'm working on, and worrying about getting dirt on myself just drives a wedge between me and the job. Anyway, I wanted to say that I was particularly scruffy this time round. It was a bit of a glimpse into what a real day's work looks like around here. The reason I'm not resplendent in new clobber every time is because every cent I can save is going into a fund so that I can build a workshop and work in peace. Playing tag with the weather gods is no fun. Anyway, that's all I'm saying before I thank Archie Evans, Jose Visa Ritvola, Jeremy Pennington, Stuart McElwee, Nicholas Southall, Kyle Hyatt, Dave Motion, Richard Murray, Klaus Nordstrom, Christopher Chalmers, Nick Lyon, Maxwell, Dan Scorer, Peter Bergeron, Joe Sakon, Andrew Trimble, Virgil Bastos, Robert Minicino, Damian Kelly, Sebastian Schaub, Lars Midgard, Terry Cooper, Tim Williams, Ben Harvey, Kruger de Kock, James Knight, David H. Taylor, Brent Bannister, Simon Bauernfiend, Bjorn Lekander, Benny Gustavsson, Nat Hayes, Joseph Gray, Jamie Carson, Jan Gertenbach, Shelby Gott, Lucas Becker, Stephen Morris, Patrick Ferguson, Eric Wolford, Gaz Timmons, Paul McGrotty, Carl B., Roger Beckers, Ben Cosgrave, Oberon, Corvasula, Vincent Gortner, Paul Compton, blank username, that's a good one, Roland, Neville Bartos, Florian Copper, Tony Sheehan and Derek Byrne. And all my patrons. The ongoing support, especially behind the scenes, is electric. That's it. It feels very good to have finally tackled this job because I have been talking about it for a very long time, whether you know it or not. I'll see you next time with some more work on this machine. By the way, the Lotus is ongoing and will be back, but sometimes change is as good as a rest. See you soon. Stay stuck in, and until then, good luck.